Welcome to Make You Remarkable, brought to you by Oconee State Bank, the podcast that's all about unleashing your inner leader and making an impact on your community. Get ready for a wild ride of inspiration, education, and a whole lot of fun. Each week, we sit down with local legends, business owners, and influential minds to talk about their journey, their impact, and the secrets behind their incredible success. This is not your ordinary bank podcast. We're here to bring the energy, the laughs, and the aha moments that'll leave you itching to conquer the world. Now get ready to make your remarkable with your host, JT Tomlin.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Make You Remarkable. I'm your host, JT Tomlin, and today I'm joined with Pollye Pope, Director of Community Outreach at Perimeter Church in Johns Creek, Georgia. Along with being a wealth of knowledge and experience, Pollye is a wife and a mom of 3 boys. In her free time, you can find her hanging out with her family at the ball field and rallying people around causes that advance the kingdom. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Tell me a little bit more about your story and your journey, how you got where you are.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here with you guys today. Yeah. Let's see, where do I even begin? So I am a UGA graduate. I'm a Georgia girl. I met my college sweetheart at Georgia. Ironically, we're both from Johns Creek, so that worked out. We got married the day after we graduated from college.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I know. We knew what we wanted. So we moved straight to Johns Creek. Started working for a guy named John Maxwell, who's written a lot of leadership books. And so I was in my young 20s, and I started planning leadership conferences for him in Asia and the Middle East, which was fun. It just opened my eyes to a whole new world, really. Beyond Athens, Georgia, there is a whole new world, if you can believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I did that for a few years and felt called to kind of hone in and be a little more just centralized where the Lord had me in Johns Creek. So I stopped working there globally and started focusing more locally. And I started working with high school girls and just discipling them and mentoring them and planning events actually at Perimeter Church. And I took a brief pause, had 3 boys. And even as I was in the home, I still felt a call as I was raising my kids as a full-time stay-at-home mom. I felt a call outside of the home still. I know not every woman has that, but I did. And I just was praying, God, what do you want? Like, I love where I am here, but I feel like there's more. And little by little, he would put different nonprofit ministries in my path. And they started to reach out to me to see if I could help them just raise awareness about the causes that they were for and help them raise money and to just build their budget so they could continue doing the good work that they're doing in the community. So did that while I was raising my boys at home. And then fast forward to about 3 years ago, I joined a board. It was called Kingdom Investments.
Okay.
And this was really cool. So they basically, there's an annual budget for this board, and they have different nonprofits locally and globally submit grants and say, hey, would you consider being a part of this new initiative? And so that was a volunteer term, and I fulfilled those 3 years, but got so much exposure to really cool nonprofits locally and abroad that we were able to help kind of just launch into different catalytic initiatives with them. And then that opened the door for me to come to community outreach at Perimeter Church. It's not on my radar, but I jumped right in, and I'm so thankful to be a part. So
cool.
Yeah.
So what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned? I mean, not the question that I had written out, but like, that's so cool that kind of God laid out this path for you to get into like community outreach. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned from the other jobs before Perimeter that kind of set the groundwork for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, honestly, I always had a call to do, just be a part of something bigger than myself, serving others besides myself. And so I just, even at a young age, I knew, gosh, I feel like there's more. You know, I feel like there's more to just me and my story. I feel like there's a greater impact to be made. And so what does that look like for me in each of these careers that I was placed in? And I think a lot of that is focusing less on myself and more about what God's already doing, right?
Yeah.
And that I'm just one star in the constellation, and that I get to be a piece of the puzzle. So lessons I've learned is focusing on the greater mission and less on myself, I think. And
Yeah.
just that it's a honor to be a part of what's already happening and seeing how, if any way, I can enhance just different relationships and organizations. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about Perimeter Church, like the goals and the mission of the church, and really like what your job is and what you get to do.
Yeah. So Perimeter Church is in Johns Creek, Georgia, like you said. But it has just global reach. I remember even when I worked for John Maxwell, and I was, like I said, in my 20s, and we went to, I believe it was Bangkok, Thailand, and I got off the plane and was talking with my driver in Thailand, and he was taking me to the airport, and he said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Georgia. And he said, do you know Perimeter Church? And I was like, what? How do you know? And so he said, Perimeter Church is everything here. And I'm thinking, what? Wow. So just to say the reach is huge is an understatement. But being on the inside and just specifically in community outreach, we realized that we can't do it all alone. Perimeter's mission is that we're an equipping church, and we equip people to follow Jesus and flourish his kingdom. And so what does that look like for me and community outreach? Well, I have a team of 7 incredible employees who have a heart for the community. We partner with 50 local nonprofits, and we get to serve them, and we get to come alongside them. And really, it's just building relationships with them and friendships with them and saying, hey, you are clearly an expert in this field, and we would love to be a part of what you are doing. Will you tell us, what you're seeing? Will you tell us if we can partner and how we can partner best, and use our resources to support you and also learn from you and hear, firsthand what's going on in this certain field. So it really is, it's a huge gift. 50 nonprofits, we have a goal to eventually be in partnership with 100 one day, Lord willing. So every day it's truly something new. But it all funnels back into, how can we help equip people to follow Jesus and to flourish his kingdom? So
you said every day is something completely different, but what does an average day look like for you in your job?
Oh, goodness. I mean,
that might be the hardest question to answer here.
I know. It really is so different. I mean, like yesterday, my team went into a local public school, and we delivered coffee and cookies to the teachers and administrators. They partner with Perimeter through Kids Hope, which is a mentoring program. And we were talking, my staff team and I were talking about how can we encourage these public school teachers, right? So morale's really low in the public school often. And sometimes teachers don't feel seen or really valued. And oh my gosh, they're the most valuable people, right? They're truly the MVPs. So we think strategically, how can we come in and just be a breath of fresh air? So yesterday, that looked like us bringing them a big old order of crumble cookies and coffee and fun fall creamers, and just saying, hey, you're doing a great work here, and keep it up. We're in your corner cheering you on. So that was yesterday, but it could be anything from being down in the city. Last week, I was able to go to Atlanta Mission, which is a incredibly nice homeless shelter in Atlanta. And I walked in really, and I was like, wow, this is like a beautiful facility. Like,
wow.
But their whole heart is, we want to restore dignity. And it's a hard thing for a lot of the people to come into these doors. But once they're here and once they say, hey, I need help, we want to come around them and make sure that they know you belong here. There's a place for you here. So they went through a program last week. There was their graduation from the program. It was few months long worth of like job skills and how to get back on your feet and certain things. But anyway, so I was able to go just be a part of their graduation program, and it was a total celebration.
Wow.
It was so fun. So that was last week, and who knows what tomorrow brings, but
exactly.
Every day is different, and that's something that I truly love about my job.
I think there's so much to be said about supporting nonprofits and ministries within your area without like taking on the jobs yourself. Like I think a lot of companies and a lot of people who are looking to really reach out to the community, think that they have to do it themselves. And there's so much to be said about like supporting people who are in that industry already. Because like you were just saying with this group, they specialize in what they're doing. They have a great facility and a fantastic program. You get to come behind them and support them in that program without having to create your own program to like rival that to anything. To anything that makes sense. Rival that. But it's really beautiful to kind of see that and be able to support them. And it's really cool that that's what you get to do.
Yeah. Well, I often will tell on that note, I'll tell my team, hey, we serve the experts. We get to be a part of what this is their expertise. So let's go in, let's be good listeners. Let's see, what the needs really are instead of assuming that we know.
Exactly.
But going in with a humble heart and posture and saying, teach us what is going on down here. And can we be a part? Like, it would be an honor.
And right now, especially, there's such a need for like funds. It's so hard to get money, especially because people are looking for finances for themselves. It's hard to get people to donate. So when you look at having the ability to donate to something like that and support a mission, it's so great because you get to hear what they're doing and support them. I know, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the importance of the church actively engaging in the community and how y'all kind of go about doing that.
So I know everything post-COVID has had to shift, right? So one really incredible shift that, in my opinion, that Perimeter made was becoming community friendly and not necessarily us always going out, but inviting people in. Well, a lot of people don't necessarily always feel comfortable coming to a church. They could have, a laundry list of reasons why they don't feel comfortable coming in. But God has positioned Perimeter just proximity-wise on the corner of two very busy roads in our area. And it's a beautiful campus, and it was strategically selected ultimately by God, but then also by the founding pastor, and who's actually my father-in-law.
Really?
But yes.
That's so cool.
And a team around him at that time. And it's just a really awesome location. So all that to say, in the front of the church, there is a massive lawn. And post-COVID, we started hosting outdoor events there, right? And so it's not just like hey, come, let's hang out, and maybe there's a musician on the stage. It is like truly next level, like carnival times a million, and the entertainment, and it just fosters community right there on our property. You don't have to come in. Nobody's handing out tracts. We just want you here. We want you to know this is a place you can come and feel comfortable. So I feel like Perimeter has done a great job just being kind of a city on the hill, so to speak, and just welcoming people in, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe. We want you to feel comfortable and welcome here.
I think that's such a beautiful thing. I've seen a couple churches doing things like that where they're really kind of eliminating or trying to eliminate church hurt. Because there's a lot. I mean, especially when you look at our society right now, there's a lot of people who've been hurt by the church. And it's hard to, as a church, be like, hey, we want you to come in. People are like standoffish. And so I've seen so many churches throwing events like that where, hey, we're really wanting to bring in the community and host the community, because at the end of the day, we're a part of the community and we want to be there for you. And if you decide to come to the church, that's great. But if not, like, you're not required to. We get to host you and have fun with you. And I think that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
What kind of leads you to these events, and how do y'all decide to throw them?
So it's, at this point, we have sort of an event calendar, and something that I love, Perimeter doesn't do too much, right? So the things that they do might be fewer and far in between, but they're done very well. So it sort of creates this desire, this buzz, I want to be there. So it's typically like a seasonal thing, I would say. Easter's obviously a huge deal at the church, but in the fall is our it's called the Friday Night Blast. That was the carnival I was referencing. So it's based on just calendar year, and then we do a big tree lighting in December and just welcome the community to come. But other than that, we have a sort of decentralized approach to our church as well, where there are 10 surrounding cities around our church, and we have really empowered our members to engage their cities.
Wow.
And so it doesn't all have to be like, hey, invite your friends to church on Sunday morning, but you can invite your friends to the Little C church, like the small church in your neighborhood, over a dinner or having we did this in the spring, a lemonade stand that benefited local school teachers.
Oh,
So
cool.
all of the money that children in the neighborhood raised went into a Bless Our Schools fund, and we were able to give back to different schools in the community that way. But just creating little experiences, rallying around people and saying, hey, no matter who you are or what your experience with the church has been, like you said, I know that church hurt is a real thing. And so no matter what that's been, hey, can we start fresh with you here and now? And can we show you the love of Christ right here in our neighborhood and in our city? And ultimately, if that brings them back to the church on Sundays, great. If not, what's the worst that's happened is a relationship's been built, right? So, so anyway, it's a different approach, but it's called City Impact, and it's just impacting the cities that are around us. So,
one of the questions I've had for you, we've talked a little bit about like, was City Impact an organization you reach out with, or is that in the church?
That's within the church.
Within the church?
Yeah.
How do you as a church identify the organizations to start working with?
That's a good question too, because yes, there are so many excellent humanitarian groups that are just doing really good work, helping with critical needs that need to be addressed. And so how do I, it's community outreach, how do I maintain the integrity of, everything we do is because our members have given to the church, and they've given in faith, knowing that their money is not just going to humanitarian relief, but it's going to the intention of the gospel going forward and of God's kingdom advancing and not man's kingdom advancing. And so I have to be thoughtful with the opportunities that are presented to us, the different nonprofits that come my way. I'm always blown away with, wow, this is an incredible cause. But I always have to go back to, does this align with the mission and vision of Perimeter Church? And if it does, we pursue partnership to the next level. But if it doesn't, we say, gosh, keep up the good work. Like, we would love to unofficially support you, but just know that we are cheering you on. What you're doing is an incredible work. So there is, just being a church, there's a next level of accountability and just making sure we're partnering with like-minded organizations. But there's a lot going on. And, there is, something to be said for common grace. Like, we all need help, no matter what. And so, so we do try to have that, just take that into consideration as well, that just the common grace efforts that everybody, we believe, needs a roof over their head and needs clean water and needs to know where their next meal is going to come from. So we're bombarded with opportunities. It's a great thing, though. It's not overwhelming because it just means that God's people are moving into action and in service. So
you're talking about like aligning with the missions and visions of the church. What's the mission and vision of Perimeter?
Yep. So it's just that we're an equiping church that equips our members to follow Jesus and to flourish his kingdom. So it's made up of different departments. I represent the community outreach department with my awesome team. And there's a global department. There's a city impact department. They're all areas. There's discipleship, where it's basically our small groups, community groups. I mean, we basically have all areas. We cover some ground, but that is our core goal, is how are we becoming a church where we don't, like you said, feel like we have to do it all, because quite frankly, we can't do it all. And there are other people that are doing a better work probably than we could ever do. So how do we join forces together with them, but also maintain our heart to be an equipping church? So there, like I said, many departments, but that is our one filter that we filter everything in. So, and through.
Well, cool. Going forward, I want to talk a little bit about what it means for you guys to create a remarkable experience. So in your words, like what is a remarkable experience that a company can provide? Or what does it mean for a company to provide a remarkable experience?
Yeah. Just hearing that word, I would think, just things that pop into my mind off the cuff: next level, different, excellent, impressed by something. I personally have been struck by a motto, and I don't know who even said it, but it guides my day-to-day, and it is, only one life, which soon will pass. Only what's done for Christ will last. And I think about that so often because I know that there are people who have done remarkable things in this world, and I can't tell you their names. But I know that there are remarkable things that have been done in this world that have lasting impact. And in my opinion, if it's Christ-centered, those are what has lasted. And I can refer to some of those things more than I could potentially refer to a name or a specific person. So that's what I try to hitch my wagon to when I think of a remarkable thing is, okay, what a man is going to accomplish is one thing, but what's done for God is what's going to last. And so how do we go all in on that?
Kind of going on that, how do y'all create remarkable experiences at Perimeter? And how does your team, when you're going out to do community outreach, how do you create those remarkable experiences?
Yeah. Really, relationships. That is what it all comes down to. I think that, it's easy to come in and serve one day, maybe leave some gifts or goodies, or maybe even write a check and then leave. That's easy. You can do that. But where I think the real impact lies is the reoccurring relationship, right? So we try to, when our members have a desire to serve the community, we don't just plug them in wherever we think is good or wherever a need is urgently. We really try to get to know our members and what their hearts are and how God has created them and what their passions are. And we try to plug them into one of our 50 opportunities, these 50 nonprofits, and say, hey, we believe this aligns with the way God's gifted you. And that typically will breed a higher success rate of them to return to that place to serve because they feel like, man, this is hitting something in my heart. And whether that's serving, whether that's giving, whether that's volunteering or contributing, there's that retention there. And ultimately, it's a relationship that's been formed because of that. So,
well, understanding the gifts that God has given someone and how to use those to best suit his kingdom and to best kind of reach out to people is such a powerful thing and a difficult thing to understand. It's something that's learned. So hearing that like that's something that y'all use and they are able to really empower people with their skills is incredible. What lessons led you to kind of realize that? I guess that's an interesting question, but
yeah. I mean, I even think just personally for me, what would cause me to serve, and is it a one-time thing where I just check it off the list? My heart's not going to really develop for the needs if that's the case, right? So it's just honestly a personal reflection. I thought, okay, what would cause me to want to engage more? And I think it'd be safe to assume that that's probably like a human nature thing across the board. You want to be equally matched with where your desires are. So, for example, we partner with an organization that serves refugees. Well, if you don't have a heart for refugees, you probably shouldn't go to Clarkston today.
Yeah.
But if you have a heart for teenagers who are experiencing an unplanned pregnancy that have made the brave decision to carry the baby to term, hey, this is the organization that we would love to introduce you to. So it's just kind of identifying where is your heart and how can we place you in the best place to serve and engage.
So how do you identify that with each person? Do y'all sit down with them or do y'all go through a class? How do y'all kind of figure that out?
Yeah, so it really is case by case. Sometimes we'll have people come to us and say, hey, my small group wants to serve in this capacity. And so we'll say, great, here are your opportunities. We'll have homeschool classes come. We have, Perimeter also has a school. So we have the school come to us and say, hey, we want to do 3 service days a year where the entire school goes out and serves at different nonprofit organizations. So it's basically just hearing what their needs are, what their desires are, and placing them, in the right organization where they can be of impact.
Awesome. Going a little bit of a different direction. What are some things that listeners might not know or might not know about your role and responsibilities?
What they might not know about my role is, well, I'll say there's 2 things. The first thing is we walk through suffering with people. And I think that's different because in community outreach, we see a lot of needs and a lot of things that are hard. We work with people who are addicted to certain things. We work with, like I referenced, just teen moms that are just choosing to carry their baby through but are terrified. We enter into homelessness with different organizations that are serving people that haven't had a shower in who knows how long, that have some mental instability. We enter into those areas. And so I feel like sometimes it's easy, especially in America. I feel like we have so many like luxuries that we can sort of turn a blind eye if we want to suffering and maybe not want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because we can stay in this little realm of, comfort.
Yeah.
But I think that that's something that my team really enters into is we want to go after the least and the lost. We want to go after those who are hurting and who don't really fit the American dream stereotype. We want to engage. Those are the people we want to be with, right? So I think that that's different, that we don't always specifically highlight on, but that is the day-to-day reality of the people that we serve. It's not all, beautiful and tied with a bow. It's everything's a work in progress, and it's hard. Yeah. So
I think that's such a important thing to know is like, and I agree with you. It's so easy kind of where we sit and like in America, especially to just kind of forget about people that are struggling. Like it sounds terrible, but I mean, it's so easy to do because there's so many ways to distract yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's a really interesting thing to talk about bringing that back. And how can you go into these situations and like sit down with people and hear their story and relate with them or have compassion towards people, and how can you help them? And that's such a powerful thing that the church is able to come back and do that, or it's always been doing that, but continue to make its mark doing that. Mm. I don't know. That just really hit me hard. That's a really powerful thing.
Love that. Yeah.
So how long have you been in your role?
So this role officially just since the beginning of this year.
Wow, really?
So, yeah. So I served on the Kingdom Investment Board, which was in conjunction with this role for 3 years prior to that. I've been a member at Perimeter for, about 17 years now. So
it's cool to hear your story, like kind of talking about how God has put this on your heart and then to watch how he put those positions in place for you to get to where you are now. And to see how missions is really powerful for you. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right question to ask following it, but it's just a really cool thing to hear how those situations that you're in and you're kind of going to these different nonprofits and seeing their stories, you're able to talk and learn these things from a whole range of different people. Mm-hmm. It's not just one specific thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
You know what's different too? Do you mind?
No, go ahead.
Is in the area that I work in, like I've said, we have 50 nonprofits that specialize in different impact areas: poverty, education, families, relief, but justice. But the interesting thing is the people that I work with in these organizations are not like competitive with one another. It's like this really sweet community that's like, oh, you're trying to solve homelessness? So am I. Let's collaborate. Let's not be against each other and be like, no, we want to be the best homeless shelter in Atlanta, not you. But it's this collaborative like, hey, can we join forces here?
Yeah.
Can we work together? And there's not that competitive spirit. There's more of a just, hey, let's unite for greater impact. And that is really sweet to be a part of.
That's really cool. And being like the church, being able to come in and like help be a part of it and unite with people, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that you're kind of talking about the collaborative nature, because that is something I've never really thought about. It's like there are multiple different homeless shelters and you've never thought about them clashing. They've always just kind of worked together. It's cool to hear that is true, how that works.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked a lot about the nonprofits that you've worked with and kind of hearing people's stories and working with them and working through the trauma that they've gone through with them. Have you ever experienced compassion fatigue, or if anyone on your team? What does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, the needs that are out there are insatiable, right? Like they are growing every day. And I think we just have to be honest with ourselves and say, yeah, we have a heart to help as much as we can, however we're called, but we are humans too. Like we have limits, right? So ultimately, we cannot be the source of provision for everything. We believe that God is that. So what do? Well, we do the best that we can each day. And we do what God has called us to each day. And we're faithful to our relationships each day. But knowing we can't meet every single need, because that's impossible. And we often will say on our team, like, we're all works in progress, right? There's no one has their complete solution to all of their problems. And so this side of eternity, we're never going to have that outcome. But we hope for that. That's why we set our hope on eternity. But until then, we try to do the best with what we're called to each day and trust that God's going to do what he's going to do to carry these people and these families that we interact with.
So what would you say for people who have struggled with compassion fatigue? Like people in the nonprofit industry where that is a struggle, like how would you say to navigate that?
Yeah. I think that my team is made up in a really sweet way. We have some members that have bleeding hearts, right? But then we also have members with more logical minds. And so they're really able to level one another out. So I say, just as you serve together, make sure you have a good balance of team members emotionally. Like we can't all have the bleeding heart for service. Like we also have to use our minds and our wisdom and that God's given us. And so I would just say having different team members balance one another out has been core for us to just do the mission that we've been called as successfully as we can. So.
Right. And God calls us to too. We're not called to serve on our own. He's called for community and he's called for like the church as a whole. Perfect answer. It's like, it really is. Like you need people in your life to kind of help balance you out.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of find people, be with people. Kind of going off of that, what are some challenges that you and your team have faced?
I think that, kind of the same answer is like, there are so many needs. So while we know that we can't meet them all, we still want to. So I think just keeping that desire in check of saying, okay, these challenges will continue to grow in the community. There are different organizations are handling and addressing, and that's why it's so important for us to partner together in the work that everyone's doing. But just knowing that they're going to continue to be real. And so just saying, okay, yes, this is a challenge for us. We want to meet all their needs. We have relationships with these people. We don't want struggle. We don't want suffering, but we can only do so much. So.
And as we're kind of wrapping up, I want to hear one of like the best success stories that you have. What's one of the best success stories that you've seen?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll just say a fresh one from Saturday night. I was at a gala for one of our nonprofit partners who helps with homelessness and poverty. And there were these two women that were the spotlight women, and they met at McDonald's 9 years ago. And they, one of them, she was a devout Christian. She brought her Bible to McDonald's. She worked the drive-through line, and she would work and she would read. She would work and read. And then the other lady, she always was getting on to the Bible lady. She's like, put that book away. Why do you bring that book here every day? And she was like, this is all I have.
Yeah.
So eventually these two women became best friends.
Really?
And the drive-through worker with the Bible shared her faith with the other worker, and the other worker became a Christian.
Wow.
And so they ended up they had children, young children. And so single moms, they ended up getting an apartment together, weren't able to pay their rent, ended up homeless on the street with one another. So they went to this nonprofit that we partner with, and they said, we'd like to enroll here. Will you take us in? Will you help us? And this nonprofit said, absolutely, come on in. So they helped these two women navigate their finances, help them develop a credit score, help them develop a budget, gave them job training skills, obviously a roof over their head. So fast forward, that was 9 years ago. So fast forward, they recently just co-purchased a home together.
Wow.
Again, best friends. They have 3 kids between the two of them. And so one lady lives on one side with her son and the other on the other side with her daughter and her son. But they truly operate as a family because that's what they are.
So cool.
I mean, they've been through the trenches together. So they co-own a home in Winder with one another.
Wow.
And their message is it's a nice neighborhood that even the mayor of Winder lives in.
Really?
And so they were just celebrating that, and they were the spotlight story at this gala that I was at last weekend. And that was truly just a fresh success story of God being at work. So
It's crazy that McDonald's, of all places.
of all places, I know. Can you imagine going through the drive-thru and seeing your worker reading her Bible?
Honestly, it kind of fits. Like McDonald's, there's like you either get crazy or you get like someone reading it's McDonald's. Someone's reading.
Yeah.
It's the Bible, so it's good. But it's like she's still distracted.
You never know. You never know what you're going to get. Yeah, that's true.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we're going to go into our lightning questions, the fun questions. Share a personal or business best that you've encountered, that you've had.
Okay. Let's see. Which direction do I want to go, personal or business?
Both would be great.
Both would be great. Okay. I will say, I'll start with business. So recently I got a phone call from a group it's a television show, and it was my favorite TV show growing up. It's one of those essentially like fixer-upper type shows that comes into a family's home and totally redoes it, blows their mind, and says, here you go, here's your house and the renovation, and everything's paid for. So I recently got a call from that same show that has now like been transformed years later, and they said, "Hey, we got your name, and we were just wondering, do you know of any families that could qualify to be on this TV show?" And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like how crazy is that this was truly my favorite show as a child, watching growing up. I mean, it'd bring tears to my eyes, seeing the transformation. And then this show is now being resurrected, so to speak, and relaunched, and they're calling me for a suggestion for a family to put on there. I was like, God, is this real? Like, this is so great. So that would say just a business best, or just a highlight for me was, wow, this is awesome. This is truly awesome. Personal best, I would just say, I think that one of the greatest joys and the greatest hardships or challenges, but like a beautiful challenge, has just been raising 3 boys.
Yeah.
They are incredible. I would say that they're remarkable. But just being the only female in my home, even my dog, but that's the 3 of them, Wyatt, Barrett, and Grayson. They're personal best for me and for my husband. We're so thankful for them.
What's the age difference between them?
They're all 20 months apart.
Wow.
Yes.
They're all right around the same age.
Yes. Yeah,
Crazy.
So cartoons have never been a thing in my house. It's only ESPN. ESPN, highlights, Sports Center, all of that. And it's so fun.
Did y'all watch the Toy Story Bowl?
Yes, they did. In London? That was cool.
That was really cool. I watched part of it. It was funky. Wondering if they're going to get a little bit better, but it was cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What was your favorite show as a kid? What was the one that you were talking about?
Can I say it?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever watch Extreme Makeover Home Edition?
Yeah, I think
move
so.
That bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently there's an actress that's like relaunching it. She's her production company's bought it, and they're going to try to get it back up on air.
So are you going to be able to be on set and see it all?
If they choose my family that I nominated. I hope so.
Let's hope. That's so cool.
That would be cool.
What is the most recent TV show that you've binge watched or currently streaming?
This is like a sad thing for me because I've rarely watched TV anymore. Yellowstone was like totally it for me and my husband, but it's been like MIA for way too long.
I think it's because of the actor strikes.
It is.
I think they're coming back though, right?
Yeah, well, hopefully so, yeah.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I want to so bad. Now that like everyone I know has been like, it's such a good show. I'm like, okay, now I need to go see it.
Yeah.
Okay, Yellowstone. So I'll look into it.
Yellowstone, and then College Game Day is like where it's at. I love watching football. My dad taught me the ins and outs of football when I was a kid, and I think it's because he wanted to watch it. And so he's like, all right, sit here and I'm going to teach you. And so now I love it. So, and my boys love it.
That's such a good skill. So all the dads out there, you just teach your kids to like football, and they're never going to watch cartoons.
That's true. It's genius.
What is your favorite book or other resource for people or for you?
Yeah. So I am a part of a book club, which is awesome. So we have book club once a month. We have a captain who very strategically selects an excellent book every month.
Awesome.
So we've traveled together. We are like, go the extra mile with one another. It's really sweet. So read a different book every month that way. But I would say my all-time favorite book, I have to say the Bible, because clearly it is. It's my source for life. But besides that, there's a book called Love Walked Among Us. And I couldn't recommend it highly enough, but it has basically highlights just Jesus when he walked here on earth and how he interacted with people, how he treated people. And it really caused me to slow down and think, wow, he is truly like no other person.
Yeah.
The way he interacted, the things that he called people out on and the things that he didn't call people out on. It's fascinating. But one of the main points that stuck with me and has throughout the years is that love is not efficient. So if you look at the way Jesus loved people, it was never on a time frame. He didn't try to speed it up. He slowed down. And if they were sad, he bent down low with them and he was with them in that. And it wasn't on a timetable. It wasn't efficient. So
that's really powerful. That's really powerful so much. That's such a cool thing to hear though, that like love is not efficient. Like, I guess there's no quota. There's no like time frame that you can follow. It's really on a one-by-one basis. And kind of talking about what you've been talking about with relationships, it's kind of how you have to look at it. You can't see it as, all right, I need to go to this person, this person, this person, this person. You have to understand the person's needs to truly love them, truly know who they are. I like that quote. That's cool.
Yeah.
What is the most impactful piece of advice you've ever been given?
It has to be know yourself, like yourself, be yourself. So my dad taught me that when I was just younger than I can even recall. Really, I feel like I've always known that. And it's nothing like necessarily biblical or super complicated, but he said, Pollye, it's so important throughout your life that you know who you are, that you like who you are, and that you be who you are. And that has saved me, I think, from a lot of misfortune, bad decisions, compromising, because that was instilled in me that I need to know those three things about myself and enjoy who God made me to be and be free to be nothing else but me. So,
nice.
Yeah.
And then what is something that you always tell your staff or your family? Like, what's your mantra?
I think what I mentioned earlier, just that we serve the experts and to come in with a humble heart, just ready and eager to learn from them and not impose kind of our agenda or our best practices upon them, but be a good learner and a good listener. And then as far as, this is something that I tell my staff team, but also in my home, I will tell my boys, hey, the world is going to tear us down. Let's not tear one another down in here. Let's be a place.
So true.
I know. It's hard out there. So let's not do that in here. Let's be a place where we can build one another up and encourage one another and support each other and believe in each other. Because once we walk out these doors, we're not getting that. So
that's got to be fun because you got all boys. They're all always after each other.
Oh, you know it. That's true. Yes, they are.
All right, last couple questions. These are the questions that we ask everyone about, like make you remarkable, because obviously that's the name of the show. But first and foremost, what does the word remarkable mean to you?
Yeah, I just think it means an impression, putting a mark on something, saying this has purpose, this has meaning. And so I think whatever that looks like, whatever God calls me to at any given day, just keeping that in mind, that my life has purpose. He created each of us on purpose for a reason. And so let's make our mark on that today, whatever he calls us to.
And going off of that, when you first heard the term make you remarkable, what did that mean to you?
Yeah. I had to read it a couple times.
I've heard that a few times recently.
Yeah, but I liked it. I really liked it. And as I even shared with my family or some friends about what this podcast was, it became more and more comfortable. Just make you remarkable, make your mark. What do you want to do that has meaning, that adds value to the world that we're in? So I love it.
I think that's definitely something that us here at the bank too, like we kind of realized that when we came up with the name, it was weird to say for a few times because, make your mark, and which is why it's like its own bubble. It's such a common phrase. Then when it came down to like make you remarkable, we wanted people to make a mark that is remarkable, Everyone wants to be remarkable, something worth remarking about. But when it comes down to making an impact, especially as a church too, talking about your story, making a mark that is remarkable, that is bringing God glory, that people are realizing is remarkable just as God is. It's such a cool thing. And it's a fun thing it makes people stop because they're like, make you remarkable. That it doesn't feel right saying it. And then you start to think about it, and you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's been really fun, and I really like the name. And I like your answer, too. I love asking that question because it's always different.
Yeah.
Everyone has a different take on it. Because, sometimes you'll ask someone a question. They're like, oh, this is the textbook answer.
Mm-hmm.
But with this, it's like, oh, I have to think about it. And then it comes from my experiences and what I think about remarkable. And I don't know. I love that question.
Yeah, that's good. It's a great name. You guys very clever.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us about your story. And
Thank you for having me.
Look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much, JT.